I draw your attention, and I know you've read it, in relation to the Irish Government Economic and Evaluation Service and the spending review carried out. And I'm asking specifically, what steps are the government taking in relation to the recommendations in that and the data? And I'm going to use 16 seconds to go back to the previous one and point out, Minister, there's a serious misunderstanding somewhere then in relation to the media reports of the downgrading of the North West region. And I'd ask you to come back separately, either with an email or a letter in relation to that.
Minister.
Thanks, Catherine, and thanks, Deputy Connolly, for raising this. The Office of Public Works has a significant and diverse office accommodation portfolio distributed throughout Ireland, comprising 890,488 square metres at the end of the year 2021, and include a range of different types of office accommodation, from heritage buildings to brand new grade office accommodation. The issue, and Deputy Connolly has raised this with me before, of whether to buy, build or lease properties is a complex one and is subject to various factors, including the availability of capital funding, the availability of suitable building and sites, the prevailing market conditions at the time, the urgency and scale attached to the accommodation request, and the duration of the requirement. Due to the range of accommodation requirements across government, there is a variety of solutions depending on the circumstances, and it is important to keep a dynamic portfolio available to the government. The Office of Public Works' preference is that functions of infrastructural importance, or those viewed as long-term commitments, should, where possible, be accommodated in state-owned properties. This would include headquarters for central government departments, state security services, etc. The overall conclusion that can be drawn from the recently published spending review paper is that when the state is acquiring significant property for office accommodation, the new build or purchase options should be considered on a case-by-case basis in accordance with the parameters of the Public Spending Code, particularly if there is a long-term requirement subject always to the prevailing market conditions at the time. To meet its strategic objectives of modernising the estate and making it more efficient, the Office of Public Works constantly looks to appraise the potential of new and existing owned accommodation portfolio for future redevelopment of sites, redevelopment opportunities and potential asset recycling prospects. This is done in parallel and conjunction with ongoing appraisal, monitoring and managing of opportunities which arise from within the leasehold estate. The extensive research undertaken for the review provides the Office of Public Works with an important evidence base on which to ground decisions on the overall development of the portfolio. Under the NDP, the OPW has been successful in securing funding for a broad range of projects, which includes a number of office developments that will further enhance the balance of leased and own accommodation. One of the major capital projects that has been funded within the project is through the Ireland National Resilience Plan is a deep retrofit of Tom Johnson House in Dublin 4, which will reduce the building's primary energy consumption by 75%. And I'll come back to the rest of it in a while, Catherine.
Very much, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, you've acknowledged, I have followed up on this because my experience in Galway has been dreadful, where the health executive at the time leased a property for almost $1 million per year on a 35-year lease, $1 million per year, and in the end it was cheaper to break the lease with $1 million penalty. That's the health executive. So I have a particular interest, and it would seem to me to make more sense to have properties that the state owned, and there is an acknowledgement of that on page 9 for the important structures and important facilities for the government. But this is a fascinating subject, really. The Office of Public Works has 2,500 properties valued at $3.3 billion. 61% of the office space is owned and 39% is leased. And they looked at 5 properties, 5 case studies, and in every single case they found it was significantly cheaper to build. That was over a 40-year period. The cost of building accommodation in the 5 locations reviewed is between 29 and 38% lower than leasing. That's the context of my question.
And as I said to you, the last time, I think, Deputy, through the Chair, that we discussed this, I don't disagree with you, and the Office of Public Works doesn't disagree with you. In fact, we agree, but there are circumstances where you will have urgent needs. For example, if a tribunal is to be established and there is a requirement in the here and now for office accommodation, and the OPW doesn't have the benefit of being able to go through a rigorous planning process, all objections, judicial reviews, public procurement, the Public Spending Code, and the tribunal needs to get up and running. There are occasions when we actually need to move. And you're right, the Office of Public Works accommodation portfolio is 60-40. And this is quite different from 1998. At the end of 1998, for instance, the OPW's Office accommodation portfolio comprised of 960,000 odd square metres, 56% of it which was owned and 44% of it was leased. And I would say that while the estate is 7.5% smaller now than it was in 1998, the number of people we're accommodating is 40,000 more, an increase of 27%. So in terms of a pound for pound delivery, I think you'll find that the OPW is actually doing quite a good job in this field for the government.
Deputy Connolly.
Minister, you know, I have the greatest respect for the Office of Public Works. I think they do great work. There's a bigger policy decision here for every government as to what type of policy they're going to adopt in relation to encouraging important entities of the state to rent or to purchase. And I think a clear message has been given here that it is cheaper to build in terms of capital over a period. Of course, I agree with you. The short term, sometimes you need to lease or rent. I have no problem with that, but not when it's lost as it was in Galway, where a building was, as I said, rented for $1 million a year. And I think I can think of a lot of other buildings that are rented across the board, and perhaps the Office of Public Works is doing better. I don't know, because I don't have the profile of all the others. For instance, in Galway, the City Library is rented for as long as I can remember. I think it's absolutely daft. So what I'm talking about here is a policy. They have less space now with more staff, as I understand it, but of course we have the blended work environment as well.
Minister.
Yeah, and you're right, Deputy, and this is actually going to change even more in the next 6, 12, 18 months, where we have a new blended working environment. We're now going to have situations, and we've already had it through the OPW's led campaign in relation to energy consumption in public buildings, including this very building, where we have on days you might have 10-15% occupancy. And we're going to have very difficult conversations across our whole estate in relation to whether or not everybody that works for the civil servants, for instance, can continue to have the same sort of desk space or the same sort of office accommodation space as they had previously, while they're working maybe 20 or 30% of the time in a remote location or at home. And in the meantime, the state's keeping the lights on. So you're right, this is an opportune time to have a discussion in this. But you're also right in the context of what the Office of Public Works do, and I would contest that since 1830, when we were established, our role has actually shrank, where now I would say to my colleague, the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, now is actually the time to widen that remit in terms of the other state-owned Ireland Inc. buildings that we're not responsible for, that we should be responsible for.